At least one person is being tortured in each district in Sri Lanka. It means 25 into one day. In Sri Lanka, torture is being used as a tool to investigate. So my organization is focusing on torture, extrajudicial killing and disappearances. No one can be disappeared without being tortured, at least psychologically, mentally. There's an individual case that we handled in the torture case of Gerard Mervyn Pereira. So he was undergoing torture in 2002. He was beaten, he was tortured, and the police wants him not to take this case out, because they have misleadingly taken Gerard Mervyn Pereira instead of someone called Gerard.
Unfortunately and sadly, torture is very commonplace in Sri Lanka and very regular, very routine. The police have often used it as an investigative method, and they also think that it's a quick way to conclude investigations, to resolve crimes. Another dimension, I think, is more societal, it's more social. And socially, there are a lot of people who think that it's okay to torture certain categories of persons. For example, a rapist, a mass murderer, or someone who might be called a terrorist. So these people are considered like fair game for torture.
We filed a case, we made a complaint to the police, and the case was going on. The police want to come to a compromise, and Gerard is not willing to do so because he wants justice for what had happened to him. While this torture case was ongoing, in 2004, while he was traveling on a bus, he was shot by the group of people who have been given directions by the police officers. The murder case is also filed in 2004, and that becomes another headache to the family members. The family members have to represent the case as well, so anyhow they don't have money. To file a case at Supreme Court, they need money, at least 2 lakhs of Sri Lankan rupees to file a case. Wife of Gerard was not allowed to go out for the cases, and she was threatened. She didn't leave the fight to get justice. She was, after the death of Gerard Mervyn Pereira, she was a housewife. She started working, and she is rearing up 3 children. And the eldest daughter, still now, she is not willing to stand for justice because of a father stood for justice and he was killed, and a mother is fighting for her father's death. She doesn't want a mother to go and fight for it. Her trauma is different, and the second son, until now, he is undergoing counseling and psychological treatment, and he is also under medications. And the third one, he is not even remembering his father. He's 6 months when his father was killed.
Specific to the context of Sri Lanka in the last several decades is that the war and counterinsurgencies and counterterrorism initiatives have also kind of encouraged and made torture flourish.
According to UN definition on torture, both physical and psychological torture is equally accepted as torture. So methods of torture is like that. They are beating with a pole and tightening the legs and just lifting the person up and beating to the back and beating to the sole of the legs, soles, ear, palms, keeping the pens, squeezing the hands, sometimes slapping and kicking to the faces, sometimes removing the nails with equipments. Especially for women, so I also handled a case 47 days, just imagine a woman without changing her cloth, and even for a menses she has to sit there in the same cloth. At night sometimes she was asked to sleep without her dress. She ended up in mental hospital. In some occasions police officers or the officers, not all, they ask them to come and sleep with them. Even for men it's same. We at times get so much threats from the government. We were asked to close the office. So what we did, not only relying on Sri Lankan legal mechanism, we thought of going on to other preferences. There are international lobbying places that we can lobby, to UN, kind of other networks that work on torture. So we made all other organizations also come along with us and stand for this particular case, and we were doing the campaigns, writing statements, protesting. When we get opportunity to speak, we just highlight this case as well, continuously marking the death of Gerard Mervin Pereira every year and bringing a kind of social discourse. And we didn't stop there, we were engaging with the state as well. We were asking them also to give justice to this case. So this is not one particular effort that we did, this is a collective. Now this case has become an international referring case. Even now if you go and Google it, you can find it. In 2019, September 30th, the murder case also came to an end. For the torture case, family members received it means 1 million. That's the maximum amount that according to the Torture Act it should be given. By the time of the verdict, one person, the second perpetrator was already dead. And the first and third, they have to undergo death penalty, but in Sri Lanka there is no death penalty, so life imprisonment they have to do.
Decision in this case is particularly significant, and they kind of serve as a warning to policemen across the country, but also to other government officials in powerful positions who encourage torture.
Everyone was happy. Still there is room for justice. We are not going to stop. This is one particular case, and in the recent past we received 6 judgments similar like this.
Impunity is the rule and accountability is the exception in the case of torture, but we must reverse that trend. When accountability becomes the norm and the rule, and impunity becomes the exception only, I think we would be able to see real progress.
If we untiringly working and not losing heart, being patient, we can achieve success.